Many thanks again for keeping a date with us on the program Politics Today on independent television and radio. My name is Sonny Duke Okosun, your host on the program. On Thursday, the Independent National Electoral Commission, Inec, announced the dates for the governorship election in Edo State and in Ondo State. But a major concern is the one for Edo State, which is now scheduled for September 17th. And from the timetable released by Inec for the election activities, the conduct of primary election and resolution of disputes arising from the primaries will be between 2nd of June to 27th of June, while campaign will kickstart on the 21st of June. With us in the studio is eminent personalities who have the capacity to do justice to what we have for you this beautiful Saturday morning. From my immediate left, let me thank the Programs Officer, Foundation for Good Governance and Social Change, Christopher Ojokere. Chris, many thanks for joining us.
Good morning, happy weekend.
We also have with us the legal luminary himself, Chief A.B. Thomas. Chief, many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
We also have with us another barrister at law, Barrister Matthew Adagese. Thank you for joining us.
I'm very pleased to be here.
And from the Oredo Legislative Arm, Legislative Assembly, we have Comrade Harrison Zeko. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, viewers.
Okay, in addition to the announcement of the timetable for Edo-Ondo governorship election, Inec also deregistered 75 political parties. But for now, we'll say 74 because we understand one of the political parties is already in court. And until the outcome of that action by the political party, for now, we could just say 74 political parties have been officially deregistered. And that leaves us with about 18 registered political parties. As usual, our studio lines will be open so you can call and be part of the conversation. So, gentlemen, let's begin with Edo State. INEC has fixed the timetable for the election. I'm sure with this now, we have a clear-cut direction of the election. I'm sure, in your opinion, the hostilities, the politicking, and all the issues that we have seen dominated discourse in Edo State will ebb a little bit. Do you believe in that?
Well, it should ebb because we have come to a crescendo in the whole scenario. We'll soon have a denouement. It is beholding of the players to realize the gravity of the moment, the seriousness of it, and the implications for what will follow, which is the elections. So we should hope that now it should ebb. The onus is on them whether they want the whole thing to end up as a tragedy or as a tragic comedy. There's already too much tragic incidents going on at play. So we should hope that they would want it to end as a tragic comedy. I would recommend that this is the time for them to be a bit more self-reflexive and then sit back to reappraise all the troubles and battles, antipathy and mudslinging that has been going on. And then come together as a family, since they belong to one party. For me, the war, which has been the war of attrition, is very dangerous when you are of the same camp. Because the war of attrition wears down the same camp. Whatever methods and strategies applied by opposing forces or opposing factors in the camp wears down a particular camp. And they'll be going into election against an opposition. The opposition is not in their camp. That is why it's called an opposition.
Absolutely.
The opposition will only be too glad to meet people who are already beaten blue-black, weak, whose morale are demoralized, and who are completely, overwhelmed, and therefore not prepared to go into an election. So I will advise them to sit down and think about all of these, and then ask themselves the fundamental question: what really is the problem?
So you're looking forward to resolution of all the hostilities within this short period of time?
It will be most advisable.
All right, let's take a pause there. Yes. Chief A.B. Thomas.
Yeah.
There is a feeling that with the announcement of the election timetable, the date of the election fixed. I mean, I read out a while ago the period within which primaries will be held, and then resolution of crisis emanating from the primaries would have been taken care of. What do you make of this? It brings the background to the fact that heralding the announcement was the demolition of a property belonging to a member of one of the opposing camp. I'd like to get perspectives on this.
I'm sorry. I do not see any light at the end of the tunnel. Edo State, as it is today, for the two principal parties, they're going nowhere. I wish Inec would have brought down the date from June to maybe April or May. As it is now, the warring parties have enough time to fight on. You see, it is now, it's like when you have 90 minutes game, and suddenly you discover that you have only 5 minutes left. Then you begin to see all kind of shots from different angles, because anyone can deflect into the goal. Now the scramble for the soul of APC, the scramble for the soul of PDP, it is going to intensify. I'm sorry, my friend, that I differ from you. It is going to differ. Thus this week, an Ekuma High Court granted deduction, restraining PDP from announcing the results of the congresses at what level. You know court cases. If you go ahead and announce, it's at your own peril. We saw it in Rivers. We saw it in Zamfara. So the fight now is going to intensify, particularly in APC, where people are now going to say, look, let's use the last ounce of our energy to get the soul of the party. So instead of those Abuja camp to call home and say, okay, we surrender. Who wants to surrender at this stage? It should have been a case of no victor, no vanquish. You can't get that now. It is, if I can't get it, I spoil it. And if they now flood the courts, they're already in court, mind you, over the issue of who is chairman of APC, they're in court. Now, don't also forget the issue that is also in court, whether the national chairman of APC is legally competent to preside over anything concerning APC. Yeah. So if that all these cases are not withdrawn, and at the end of the day, the court rules that having been suspended from, that the suspension from the ward level to local government to state were all valid, it means whatever primaries conducted by APC right from the beginning to the end is null and void. But you are hoping that this is the time they will shake their sword. No. It's Oshiomhole going to say, I'm sorry. Impossible. Is Obaseki going to append that at this level? He's gone too far. Okay. So if you look at PDP,
it's brewing up.
It's brewing up.
What you just said.
It's brewing up. Even who is going to be where the next chairman, the zone to come from, is not known. Every zone is calculating. If I take chairman, I can become governor. So APC, PDP that should have taken the lead to say we have a disarrayed government party in power is also brewing through, I mean, aiming through the same line with APC. So the timetable is even too far for me. Just too far. Okay. They should have brought it back to something like April so that they can quickly run and come together. But the time, June, is still enough to kill themselves.
Okay, we hope they won't do that. We hope we won't see killings. I mean, as it's going now, because politics, as we know, is all about interest. About Matthew Deregisters, politics is all about interest. Naturally, you respect that with the timetable released, right? The next line of action for political parties will be the primaries. So what are your expectations?
I agree with you that politics is a game of interest, but that interest should not be pursued in a very vicious manner. Otherwise, it becomes war. Like my Lenin senior has put it, a lot of water has passed under the bridge. Most of the gladiators have crossed the Rubicon. They either fight to finish
or they leave the trophy. Nobody will surrender, nobody will retreat at this stage.
So it's a case of no retreat,
there must be
no surrender.
There must be a clear winner. It has gotten to this stage. He said that you get defeated or you defeat somebody. That is the stage. Nobody is going to surrender at this stage. Like he also observed, the timetable has given ample time for the raging fights to hit a crescendo. If care is not taken, the arena will be set ablaze. And we don't pray that happens. Because politics should not bring war, should not bring social disharmony. Leadership is for service. If it is for service, why will you want to kill to achieve the opportunity to serve? Are you going to serve in the cemetery? Or are you going to serve as a ghost yourself? Because when there is war, you cannot predict who will die or who will be a casualty. The casualty will be determined by the circumstance of the war. The end cannot be determined from the beginning.
Okay.
So I advise all those interested parties, especially the ruling party, to bear in mind that it is service for the people as the base of democracy.
Okay.
And anybody killing to achieve that opportunity to serve is not a democrat. It's a tyrant. And tyranny should be abhorred by everybody who's participating under a democratic system. I advise everybody to respect the rules of the game. There's possibility of you winning. There's also chance of you losing.
Yeah.
It's like every other game. There will be a loser and a winner, definitely. But the way and manner you win makes you a good sportsman or a very vicious one.
Okay, Comrade Harrison, I know that you're a member of the ruling All Progressives Congress, but I can't tell which of the camps you belong to. I'm not here to discuss that, Harrison. But let's get to know your perspectives on some things that happened within the week. Two stories came forth. Two leaders in the party in Uhonde and in Ego were allegedly suspended. And then the following day, we have, perhaps their supporters also coming forward to say, look, we passed a vote of implicit confidence on these two people. Isn't it one fight too many for the party? Do you foresee the possibility of a consensus of opinion resolving these issues amicably, even with the timetable fixed for the election?
Well, first, Inec have the right and the sole responsibility to give timetable for election, which they have done. And it is very clear that the election is already around the corner. My joy is that at least the timetable for me have encouraged me because of the time. I think that will be enough time for this issue to be looked at from the level of the president. Trying to say at this level that the two parties, the state governor and of course the national chairman to start them, I don't see that one happening. Because the governor of the state, to him it's a do or die affair, but for a sitting governor to be there and some person just feel that he's a nobody, let's just do what we like and think he'll get away with it. It doesn't work that way. It's the governor of the state, for goodness sake. Like I tell my brothers from the other side, yes, our national chairman, they should remember that he is not the governor of the state. Other parties have national chairman. It is those who are actually blowing it and making this thing to be so big. The kind of power they arrogate to him, look as if he's the sitting governor. No! The military does not cover him. There are some things they are doing that ordinarily, it ought not to be so. This is the same party. We were supposed to be celebrating that at least the governor have performed. That the second term bill should be an easy way for the opposition party.
Is it compulsory? Second term. Is it compulsory?
Right. It is right. It is right as a person, and they have decided that they want to contest. And we will give the support to people who are supporting him. Because me personally, I am on the side of the governor supporting the governor.
So you know that way you are in the governor's camp. So you said the person.
No, we have to be clear. We don't need to deceive ourselves. Yes. My support is based on his performance.
Okay.
My support is based on his policy.
Okay.
If I were not in government, as an activist, I would be on the side of the government. Because some of the things that we have clamored over the years, that we feel that government should do some certain things, these are the things that is doing. Government is no longer allowed. If in government you get only your salary, no other money comes in, every other legal money have been blocked, and that is why people are not happy, they are hungry, and you don't expect to do the same thing and get a different result. Yeah. So for that simple reason, we are appealing that at this level, the presidency should intervene. Because the reconciliation committee that was set up, it cannot go well. The national chairman is a party to this issue. He cannot be setting up a committee to look into the same issue that is involved in it. It doesn't work that way. You cannot be a judge in your own case.
Okay.
Lawyers are here. Okay. So for that simple reason, it's only a neutral body, a neutral person, which is the president, that can call these two parties together and say, okay, let it go.
But Mr. President in the past has actually asked both parties to go home and sort this issue out.
The instruction the president gave, the state governor have followed, but the national chairman did not follow.
Why are you so sure the national chairman
it was the public domain. He said that they should allow the sitting governor to go for to get the second tenure, and the other party should come back or the state of the assembly.
Okay.
But I expect at that level, the national chairman will come down, so let's call our people together. This man we are talking about was his boy. Okay, but at this level, the fight continues. So it's only the president said that can intervene. If not, it's a fight to finish.
If you just join us, it's State Politics Today, reaching you live on independent television and radio this beautiful Saturday morning. Of course, with the release of Inec timetable for Edo State Governorship election, just x-ray some of the issues that are likely to take the front burner in the days to come in the build up to the 2020 election, countdown to the 2020 election. Now, gentlemen, it's just something which, of course, is very striking. Calling on Mr. President to step into this matter, to find a lasting resolution. Now, this is an issue that has been raging all this while. Will you see Mr. President coming to nip it in the bud? Calling Mr. President at this time to step into this issue, isn't it a little bit too late? Yes, let me just I'll come to you by side. Yes, quickly.
Now, the responsible thing to do,
yes,
whenever there is a disagreement, especially of this magnitude, by anyone and everyone that calls themselves leaders, is to intervene and sue for peace. If the president is the leader of the party nationally, it is expected that events that have happened in Edo State these past months, especially in the magnitude and in the proportion in which they have happened, it is expected that the president by now would have seriously intervened in the matter. Except the war is serving certain interests that is beneficial to certain quarters. If not, we should think that this being the president's party, the national chairman, a most senior officer in the party being from this state, and the president and the governor he loves to travel with when he's going out where he requires economic ideas are at loggerheads. What is expected of a responsible leadership is that the president would have called these two people to his office and sorted out this problem before now. It is very unfortunate when you begin to hear fights to finish. We are talking of governance. It's a very responsible activity. It's not to be subjected to bestial, instinctual, expressions. We're talking about responsibility over 4 million people, which is Edo State. And APC is just a fraction of these 4 million people. It is not a government of APC, it's a government of Edo State. Yeah. Economies are tied to it, family lives are tied to it. Now, we are facing an existential threat in this Edo State, as I have always maintained. There's an external security threat facing us in this state. We are not able to sit down to organize and to ask ourselves how we are going to deal with that. We are flexing muscles on each other. We are being overrun on a daily basis. Those who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. There are hordes of dangerous people pouring into this state daily, taking positions in every nook and cranny of the state. This state could easily be overrun today by some miscreants at the blast of a whistle. I should think that what we should be involved in now is serious governance, leadership, operating at that level, sitting down to say, what do we do?
Is this too late for Mr. President?
It is not too late for Mr. President. Okay. And indeed, it is incumbent upon the President
to intervene.
To now intervene.
Let me push you there. Chief A.B. Thomas, we've seen before Mr. President making an attempt to intervene in a matter like this. It didn't yield any results.
The President has failed to show leadership to the whole country. Ditto, he has failed to show leadership to APC, his party.
What is the grounds for using the word he has failed?
When I say he has failed,
this is subjective.
Now, listen, look, it's not subjective.
Yes.
It's something we have been seeing.
It's subjective.
This fight over the treasure of Edo State. That's what I call it. It's the fight over the treasure of Edo State. If you don't pay tax, I pay tax. It's the fight over the territory. This fight has been going on now for more than a year. The president has been there. It got to a point where our Oba, who is not supposed to travel, let traditional rulers in Edo State to go and be president. That was also the objective. Also the thing. Do you know the president did nothing? That traditional rulers, first class traditional rulers in Nigeria, came to you. These two people are our children. Please call them together. He did nothing. And I don't expect him to do anything now. Where was he when APC lost all their candidates in River State? Where was he when APC lost all the seats they won in Zamfara State? Now that he's overwhelmed, the president is now more overwhelmed by the security situation in the country. He's now having sleepless nights as if he is over the security situation in the country. America has just slapped a ban on Nigeria. He shouldn't be sleeping. He's walking. I remember Konjo-Iweala, before she left power, she said, I have become hypertensive. My heads are turning white because I can't sleep thinking of how to solve the economic problems of Nigeria. A president that is going to show leadership is not fire brigade you have in Nigeria that runs to a burning house without water. Is it now that the president will do anything? Let me tell you straight away. Your topic is what will happen now that Inec has brought timetable. What is he going to do? If I am in APC, thank God I don't belong to any party. If I'm in APC and the president gives me instruction at this moment, I will disobey him. I will go to court. Let the court decide. And the court will begin to adjourn. By the time you know it, the timetable, Inec will not wait for you. Inec will not wait for you. Yeah. So, you do not expect Obaseki at this moment to go and open treasury in the name of reconciliation and to meet timetable. All of you come because you are jobless. Come and take money. You see, what I have been saying here, and I've said it several times, some of these people who are making this noise, now that timetable is out, they are lawyers. If I don't go to court every day, I cannot feed. I can never feed if I don't go to court.
So you say lawyers are feeling this crisis because
they are there. And some of them are the active participants in this crisis are also lawyers, but they don't go to court to argue cases. They want Obaseki to put in treasury for them to take. All right. So what I'm saying straight away, the president does not have the time. He is the president of 36 states and FCT. And those states is not going to be his only headache. He should face other important things like national. So
this is too late for Mr. President.
It's too late for him.
All right, that's Matthew Deregisters.
And even if it's not too late, nobody will obey
you feel the same way that this is too late for Mr. President to handle against the background of how this issue has lingered for so long.
Let's go to the history of this case. The Abuja, at the initial stage of this whole, when this crisis was at the body stage, they intervened, but it was negative intervention with a very biased mind. So President shying away from intervening now is a fallout of that failed negative intervention. They intervened to subdue the leadership, administration of the states, the institutions of the states. In quotes, applying the federal might, as if we're in a military dictatorship where Abuja is short and the units.
But we need to situate that properly because that intervention came from the National Assembly. It wasn't from the executive.
Abuja, federal is a government. There are 3 organs that are based on the government: judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. So if we are talking about Abuja, we're talking about the government in Abuja. The integral part of that government is the soul of that government is even the National Assembly. And we do know that the National Assembly has already constituted. It's not too detached from Aso Rock, from the villa. Even some people have the opinion that it is tied to the apron string of the presidency. They are more or less seen as people who were put there by the villa, the 2 heads of the chambers. So if that is the situation, you cannot detach what they have done from executive approval at that stage, at that time. So having failed to intervene negatively, the thing was resisted by the Edo State government. Legislature and executive, they also resisted because it was a constitutional aberration for you to be ordering government and government of the state to do what you want in Abuja. That is not in line with the law of the land. So that was frontally resisted. That sent the signal that Edo State is not a class of primary school pupils where the headmaster will sneeze, everybody will shiver. Edo State refused to shiver.
So it's too late for Mr. President.
The Abuja sneeze.
Is that the point you're saying?
Yes.
It's too late for Abuja sneeze.
The intimidation, Abuja division failed. after a very stiff resistance by the government and the people. Not just the government, the people of Edo State felt insulted. When there was a very high-falutin boast in Abuja that we are coming to take over the government of the State Assembly over a matter that was already before the court. I mean, in fact, it was the negative progressive intervention that led to the matter being taken to court. But when they were not showing so much bias, the Edo State team saw the need to approach the judiciary for a proper interpretation of the Constitution as to whether Abuja had the power to lord it over the State Assembly and superimpose their will. So the Abuja pushed us to this precipice where we are now. So Abuja intervention now will push us over the cliff. So Buhari is aware of this danger. And the first push put us in a dangerous position. So he's very wary. He doesn't want to come and blow up the roof. So his staying away was very tactical. It was a tactical withdraw and retreat. When a battle...
But he's supposed to be the father of the party.
The opportunity to be a father was lost.
So has he? Is the party now fatherless?
There was an attempt.
He's fatherless.
Is the party now fatherless?
I say fatherless.
An attempt to bully failed. So the bullied is now hardened. So the bully is head now.
Right, let me get your take here. Comrade Harrison, it's a very difficult position for you in this matter, but where you stand is very, very obvious. But my concern is the fact that in all of this, as some say, the people are the worst for it. Like Chris made some statement a while ago by the influx of certain individuals or characters in the state, rather than focus on governance. We are politicking. Are you concerned about this?
Well, that's not true, because I don't think there's any evidence to prove that there are some characters in the states. We don't have evidence to prove that. But what is important is that let us look at this government. Who are the beneficiaries? The ideology, the thinking, the policy of this government, who are the beneficiaries? Whether they like it or not, there is a parallel shift from the way governance used to run in the states. Government have been withdrawn from the House of Services. I promise, sir. He talks about the people. If this government have the minds of the people at heart, it is working for the people, then the people will queue behind him to defend this injustice that has been meted on him.
The time has not come for the people to queue behind him.
They already are. No, the people is happy. People will come out.
The party needs to decide that.
No problem. Everyone is watching.
Yes.
When you see that the people are actually on the side of this government, maybe your mind also think that if we don't do what is wrong, are we sure that we are not going to lose this state? I wouldn't know.
Okay.
So that's what I say. Because you don't expect a man who is the sitting governor. All that be done to this man, when we are there, nobody did. You don't try it. The man have done his best. If the man says that this is where I want to run my government, I like to do 8 years, after the 8 years, carry your government. But for now, that you think that all this work that is going on, you just wake up in the morning and pull up the man up there, it's not going to work. What we are saying is that the presidency will still intervene. Because if they don't, the national chairman, by the time they create all this problem and the reverse is the case, he will not go back to the national and tell them what happened to his own state. He have more at stake compared to the government. The government has done well for the people in the government. It is not compulsory you must remain in government. But when you are in government, you're going to spend 1 year. What did you do when you were in government? That is what is important. But when you get there tomorrow, people will remember you. So the time you stay in government is not what matters. Then the way and manner they are going about it, trying to see as if we have another governor in Abuja who decides what to do in the state, is unacceptable. Even with that, we will not accept it. Even in your own office, that small office where you are, you will accept it. You cannot be doing what is there. Somebody will just come from nowhere, people tell you, and when the person has the same opportunity, just before I end this, sir, remember when Oshomole was a governor in this state, we also have a national chairman from this state. We have a national chairman. All he's doing today, and those people are watching us now, did anybody, did Oyebu did it to him? So, if it didn't happen, he should do his work as a national chairman and allow the state to run. He was supposed to run. He's a father to everybody. That is the way I see it, sir.
It takes a man married to wife to know which is better. But sometimes the consequences are usually very, very
It is not, the governor did not have the right to remove the national chairman. It was at the national level
that's what I'm saying. Thank you. If you just joined us in Still Politics today, reaching you on independent television and radio. It was just on the last lap of the program. Yeah, I did say at the beginning that in addition to announcing the timetable for Edo-Ondo governorship election, Inec also announced the deregistration of 75 political parties. Well, we'll say 74, because one of them is actually in court contesting that action by Inec. So, it's one thing that we've talked about over the years, that the number of political parties in Nigeria, they're a bit too many, but some say, well, that's the beauty of democracy. So we just have so, gentlemen, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. Master Ebi Thomas wanted to say something,
yes,
but when we come to you, let's close everything together.
All right, okay, all right.
Please, yeah.
Well, people had wondered what we were doing with 91 political, many of them clubs, parading in the name of party. I'm surprised that Yakubu gave the reason that after the committee set up had done their research, it was discovered that this 74 didn't meet the set criteria. Well, in fairness to Yakubu, he had tried to deregister parties before the parties went to court and got a court judgment for which they were reinstated. Then, kudos to Inec, they pushed and they got legislative backing. The constitution was amended, which now gives power to the Inec chairman to deregister parties. I think this is one of the best things that has happened to our democracy. In my opinion, we should deregister about 10 more. We do not need more than 6 political parties in Nigeria.
Okay.
My favorite political dispensation was 1979 to 1983, when we had 5 major parties. They were major, even if some of them were regional, but they were visible parties. Now, you had parties who I didn't hear their names until I read their deregistration yesterday. They cluttered the political space deliberately. It was to create confusion. We have it on good authority that some of the presidential candidates of some of these minor parties in the last election were sponsored by the major political parties. That, for me, I think is self-depreciating. And that is the reason why today, as Barrister said, we have 2 floundering big parties in the states, but nobody is thinking of using at least the other 15, if we have the 15 of them in the state.
On the ground.
I want to speak to those smaller parties now. If parties exist so that they can go cap in hand during elections to the bigger parties, to begin to negotiate and get peanuts, they should not expect that anybody is ever going to take them seriously. If not, what we should see is that people should come up to say, okay, these 2 parties are misbehaving, to put it in quotes. We have other parties in this state.
We have alternatives.
Yeah, we have alternatives.
One of the parties deregistered is Alternative Party.
Exactly.
I got to know by reading the names of the parties. Only get my study on board, yeah.
Well, first, before I go to your question, I want everybody to understand one thing. The timetable released by Inec is so important to the existence of APC and PDP in this state that if 2 parallel parties conduct 2 parallel primaries, the court will decide whether one party, whether one faction was valid or not. There are legal consequences. I have mentioned 2 states, and I will mention them again, Rivers and Zamfara. These 2 parties should go and sit down now. If you give me $100 billion today, if God gives me 10 years, it will not last me 10 years. It will finish. But my reputation will still be there.
That's true.
They are to govern human beings in Edo State. They should not toy with our future. Okay. Now, going to the issue of 74 parties deregistered. The amendment that was brought in 2018 or thereabouts was to give power to INEC chairman to deregister. But the main thing in the Constitution is that as long as any group of people, because a political party is defined by late Professor Dudley as an association of people who come together with an ideology.
A common ideology.
With a common ideology to take power by democratic means. Unfortunately, since 1999, Nigeria has had no political party with ideology. It has been a group of people with common interest in contracts, investing in a business to take the profits.
By just on course.
So,
thank you.
That is the kind of party you are. That is why you're having all these squabbles you're having. Otherwise, why are you having all these squabbles you're having? It is contracts and money, profit. And it's the same thing with the 74 parties that are deregistered. How can you tell me that there is a party called Alternative Party? I've never heard of that.
I've just heard of the studio.
So, all we are saying is this. The Constitution allows that when a group of people come back together and they are able to have offices in 1/3 of all the constituencies, you register them. But the Constitution drafters are no fools. They also know that there must be errors at times. That is why there is an amendment.
Okay.
Because these people just came together, put one signboard in one booker, and call it a party.
So this clause will sort of curtail this political parties.
But they have come, they've collected money, they never went to campaign. After the election, Inec now has power under the new amendment.
Okay.
After every election, assess the performance
of the political
parties. Those ones that did not even get one member in the House or local government or national, they registered them.
Okay.
That they have done. But unfortunately in Edo State, if we still have about 14 parties left besides these two rudderless parties, APC and PDP, why can't those 14 within this small period fuse, have an agreement, come together, pull resources together, and quickly go out? I mean,
if they had the resources, they probably would have been more formidable than
this is the time.
Yes.
Because, let me tell you, an army that has the best weapons in the world, that has no will to fight, can never defeat Boy Scouts.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you have these two big ones that are fighting themselves, you take the advantage.
Okay.
So that Edo people can have the alternative. So that people like Sonny, all of us here, minus me, can go and form.
Including you, sir.
Can go and form the party. Because if I hear Sonny is the chairman.
With all those ideas that you have,
if I hear Sonny is the chairman, and my brother here is going to come. I will vote for you.
Our studio line will be open.
I will vote for you and not vote for
so you can
people who are disrupting
be part of the discussion.
Our peace.
But let me get your take on this. I knew you were once a member of a political party. Is that party still in existence?
Yes.
It is in existence.
Okay.
It is not deregistered.
Okay. So
That's good.
That's ADC.
Yes.
Okay, but your chairman recently, state chairman recently moved to...
Those are individual decisions.
All right, so please go ahead.
Not institutional decision.
Okay.
So, like my learned friend has rightly put it, my own personal opinion on this matter of registration and registration of parties, you should pin it down to realistic existence of these political formations. I don't want to call them parties. Because the one you just mentioned now, I don't think I've forgotten again. Alternative was alternative party. If I'm a citizen of this nation that is resident in Nigeria, not a visiting national, I should know the parties in my country. If they bring an interview now and say, write a short interview of the political party, I will fail that exam. Because I never knew how up to those number of parties. Not because I'm not intelligent. It's because they are very deceptive in their own, by their nature. They are existing in the abstract. I'm not sure some member of other parties or those parties register also know that those fellow parties that register along to them ever existed. So they will also fail the test, like I will fail it. So, let us not lose sight of the fact that most of these parties are pseudo parties. They are very fraudulent by their own existence and character. They are products of political manipulations of the bigger parties. In fact, most of them were sponsored and registered by the other bigger parties. So if a party is not giving birth to other pseudo parties, do we really call those one political parties? they are offsprings of a fraudulent political agenda.
Okay.
Because each time there's an election, you see them endorsing candidates, adopting candidates of these other two major political parties. Are they political adopters? Professional adopters? But whenever there is party to contest, they quickly come around like millipede and say they adopt. So if they are not electorate by their own nature, they be like electorate. Don't blame them to be qualified as political parties. They are political electorates. That is what they are.
Political electorate.
Yeah, they also
political
vote for other
adopters.
voters. Yes.
All right. Those are new ones. Anyway, thank you for joining us again on the program Politics Today. Let's take your final word on this before we open our studio line. Harrison is like,
well, my leaders, they've said it all. You know, it's a very funny place whereby people wake up, they do whatever they like. It all boils down to what he said before, the center, which is the resources. Everybody is hustling for their own. And let's just get it this way and go. I think, like I said, it should be reduced to 5. And they have let every other persons, those who have been, let them go and put their heads together and support a political party. So in our election period, we cannot even begin to see the ballot paper is so long to the extent they don't even know where the names are so resemblance. The names are just there. Only one letter will differentiate them. So if people vote for some, they don't even know them. They don't even have candidates. In the last election, a party that don't have candidate got votes. Because people just go there, they don't know what to do. Let me just put it here. I think it's good for our democracy. But they should also continue to register more. Because you said that they will also register more political parties. You have registered the 17, let us reduce it more. And for now, there should be a caveat on if we do registration again, so that we can actually restructure this country. Okay. Because we are fighting just because of our common interest.
Absolutely.
And let's
take some calls now. Yes, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Awo Iwoda. I'm calling from Benin.
Go ahead. We're listening to you.
My comment goes like this. Concerning the primary, concerning the crisis in Benin, you know what? If somebody is here and you are a Christian, supposed to be loyal to your party. Party is supremacist. Even why? We are happy to get our national chairman coming from a state for the ruling party. Now, the governor did not want to submit to him. He wants the governor to submit to him. It's not do their affair. If you know that you are popular, if the party did not know, you go and contest your primary, go and contest the population in another party. For you to know that you do things good. Wait for primary. Don't do all that. If you keep people, who will be the people that will go back to? We don't know they will kill it. See that they are not saying any person is kill it. Any the other thing kill it. Is this the way they need to rule? Is this the way enemy does not conduct this thing? Enemy does not do like this. You understand? We are a democracy. If the party does not like you, go to the other party. If you know that you are doing this way, go and try your population. Go and try your goodness. Go and try it.
All right. Thank you. The comments you just made obviously shows where you belong, but that's okay. Yeah, you have a right to be on either side.
To say governor should leave the party.
Yes, good morning. Yes, go ahead, please. We can hear you. Good morning. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Bishop, you are live on Policies Today.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Let me start with the registration of the political parties. I think it's a nice thing Inec has done because it is a constitutional provision.
Okay.
Any party that fails to win any seat at all, even up to a councillorship seat,
yes,
that party is not supposed to be in existence at all. So I thank them for that.
Okay.
Now, I've had to say several a long time ago that APC should be very careful with the way they are handling things. Now, after all, this governor, Governor Baseki, he has tried his possible best, to the best of my knowledge and to the best of the knowledge of many people. Why not give him that second trial? Why not give him that second tenure?
Okay.
So that he can complete whatever he has to do.
Okay.
Because the way they are going,
yeah,
if they refuse to allow this man to be there, I'm telling you, that may be the end of APC. We don't pray for that. Thank you, God bless all
right,
you.
thank you, Bishop Bissau. Our studio line is 052-290-57. This for the benefit of our listeners on radio. 052-290-573. That number right now. Let's get your take on the discussions we've had this morning on the program. Tell us along the way you're calling. Please turn down the audio level.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Go ahead.
I greet to the house. This is from Kaiwaro.
All right, go ahead.
Like the other colleague made mention of. The traditional, which is the rulers, went to go and meet the president. Spoke to the president that I should settle this issue. But for me, I think that is too far. President is too far from this issue. The heart is bleeding, and everybody is weeping. That if our father cannot call us and settle us, who is Oshomule and Obasanjo, that our father cannot settle, or they cannot listen to our father. Let's look what is going to happen. Because this thing is too far. President is too far. Let's take the president away. The two children are fighting in the family. It is fathers are supposed to settle them. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, caller. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Did you obey him?
Good morning, caller. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Hello, caller. Good morning. What's your name and where you're calling from? Yes, you're live on Politics Today. Yes, good morning. Tell us your name.
Hello, my name is Mr. Festus.
Okay, where is Festus calling us from?
I'm calling from a Gowina community.
Go ahead, please.
Sir, I want to say that the Jagaba of Lagos, Tinubu, where is he when there's a crisis now in Edo State? What is the position of Buhari over the crisis lingering in Edo State?
Same question we're asking. We're asking the same
These
question.
are the stakeholders in APC, and they allow him to continue. I just want to went into this matter and settle the crisis before now. They don't want Edo to be on fire first before they will come and settle this matter. Now it's becoming too late. And Obasanjo is taking the time to demand that he show Oshomole that he is the commander of the state. He has told him in a broadcast that he wants to show him that he is the governor of the state. And that speaks volume. When they got that asserting authority power like this, so that this trouble is coming.
Okay.
I listened to a person on Facebook who said, I'm going to show him that I'm the governor of the state.
No, you saw it on Facebook. Did you hear him speaking?
I want to say
Did you hear
that
him
if they
speaking?
cannot settle this matter amicably, they'll be told.
All right, thank you, caller. Our studio line is still open. Just one more last call, and then will be it on the program. Hello, caller. Good morning. Hello, caller. Good morning. Yes, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good morning. My name is Okaito Isegwe, popularly known as Open Secret, the radio professor, Elsa, ambassador to the whole world. I greet you, sir.
Please go ahead. We're listening to you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I think the barrister, A.P. Thomas, I know him right from when he fought for Abu Salim University against the Deregisters in the Deregisters clinic. He has been a very vocal person.
Thank you.
So, however, I think that they have also said it. The national chairman of the APC is the one that everybody should have to beg. In this time around, we should have to beg him to type no. Because they say, do unto others what you want them to do to you. He was there 8 years, and he taught us that no more governability, let the people lead, and one man, one vote. Whereas, all these statements now, we are no longer hearing it from him again. He told us a lot of things, but today is nobody doing it. He is no longer the governor of Edo State. He did his 8 years, and nobody challenged him any day. He provides project by himself. He does everything by himself. Nobody ever challenged him. So now that Obasanjo is here, he was the one. I know all the Azoto dance, all the Makaba dance, all the dances he danced while trying to stand on Obasanjo and do people.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Our time is up. Our time is up. Our time is up. I got your message from Moscow. You said I fully support the views of those men. Those the registered parties are really abducted. Hello, caller. Good morning. Yes, quickly, your last caller for today.
Okay, that's a privilege.
Thank you.
Actually, I will speak on the issue of Edo State, the leadership also. Your panelists have been very mature. I've enjoyed their contributions. However, the question I keep asking is, what is the sin of Obaseki? Is it that the man is not delivering the dividends of democracy to the masses?
Yeah.
What has this governor done?
Okay.
Why are they fighting him? Hello?
We're listening to you.
So what is the sin of Obaseki?
So you ask those fighting him.
They should tell us.
those fighting him, yes, from Abuja, what has this man done?
So when you see them, you ask them.
He's afraid.
He's afraid to answer that.
What has the man?
What has he done?
What is he saying?
I don't see it as a war. He is the elected governor. He was not elected to serve a particular individual. He was elected to serve the people of Edo State, and which, to my best of knowledge, he has been doing.
Okay.
I go around Edo State. I train in technical school field every Sunday. I see the gigantic project that is going on there. I've never seen it on media. This man does not talk. So if you don't go out, you may not see what this man is doing, but he is delivering the dividends of democracy while he's elected. So why are they fighting him?
Okay. We will leave it at that. I'll leave it to his party members to decide when the time comes. All right. Thank you so much. I'm sure we naturally will go through that hurdle first before we. Yes, thank you. We're doing that. You know that too well that we're doing that. But we'll leave it to the party leaders to decide before it gets to the people to take a decision. That's a program for today. But just to let Moscow know that we got his message where he said the political parties, they are not political parties really, they are political adopters, and that many of them are sponsored politicians. And say, no matter all that happens now during the Somalia period. That's your contribution. Thank you. Well, that's our program for today on Politics Today. Let me thank Harrison Zeko. Thank you for coming.
Thank
and
you.
Barrister Matthew, thank you. Thank you for coming. Christopher, thank you for coming. That's our program for today and for this week on Politics Today. Big thanks to everyone that made this show a success, particularly those people that called in. We appreciate it. My name is Sonny Duke Okoso, and see you again next week, Saturday. Bye for now.